All right. Well, welcome to today's webinar, and thank you so much for joining us. I am Julie Matusick, and I am the Senior Manager at the National Family Support Network of Standards, Training, and Implementation. We are so glad that you were able to join us today. A couple of housekeeping items just to make sure we're all set here. So if you are joining us online, you can listen directly through your computer speakers. And if you have joined via the phone number that Zoom provided, your line has been muted to reduce minimize background noise. So just want to mention that. And if you are online, we will be putting a link in the chat now where you'll be able to access handouts, materials, the PowerPoint presentation, everything is in the chat box for you. So, and we will put that again at the end as well. So also want to mention that you'll see the handouts there for download, and also want to draw your attention to the Q&A section of the Zoom console here. So if you have any questions, I encourage you to put those right into that question and answer section, and we will be answering those at the end of the webinar. So feel free to be entering those throughout the that section. And if you're having any tech support during the webinar, we have live tech support here to help you out. So please feel free to put those in the Q&A section as well. We will do our best to get to all of the questions at the end of the webinar. And if we're unable to, someone from the National Family Support Network will follow up after today's webinar. And last housekeeping item here, today's PowerPoint handouts and a recording of this webinar will be available on the National Family Support Network website on the webinar Wednesday page this time tomorrow. And lastly, when you exit the webinar, an evaluation will automatically appear on your screen. So we ask that you take a moment to complete this as it provides us with valuable feedback to inform future webinars. Okay, that's housekeeping items. And we also have the chat box too. So just want to mention that. So feel free to message us that way as well. All right, so enough about myself and housekeeping for now. Let's see who is with us here today. So would like to get an idea of who is on the webinar today. So take a look at this map that you see on the screen and see how we have divided up the United States and the US territories. And we've also on the poll that just was launched, you'll see that we've included Canada as well. So take a moment to let us know where you are joining us from. Take about 5 more seconds if you haven't had a chance to respond just yet. All right, and let's see those results from that poll. This is really incredible. So we have representation from all corners of the US and outside of the United States. So Northeast, South, Midwest, West is our strongest representation, very cool. And we have folks from Canada as well. So thanks so much for responding to that question. We have just a couple other questions for you just to get a sense of who is with us today here. So this next one is about your affiliation. So on the poll that is going to pop up, let us know what type of an organization you work for. So whether maybe you're working with a family resource center or other family support program, or maybe you're working at the network level. We have a couple aspects of government covered there, private funder, education, consultants, and of course we have that catch-all other if you don't identify with one of those. So take about 5 more seconds and let us know your affiliation. All right. Let's see those results. Great. So we have strong representation from the family support field, family resource centers, network level. We also have some government, private funder, education, consultant. Feel free to put in the chat if you put other, feel free to put in the chat what you're up to. Would love to know a little bit about who's here today. So thanks again for sharing your affiliation. Last question for you all. And that is about your role. So what hat do you wear at your organization? And sorry, I misspoke. This is actually about your hat in the bigger scheme of things. So whether you're working at the policy systems level or whether you're working at a management level at your organization, or maybe you're working at the program level, working directly with families. And of course, we have the other too. So take a few more seconds to let us know what level you are working at. Alrighty, see these results. Very cool. Looks like over half of you are representing the program and direct service level. Awesome. But we also have some policy systems level and management level in the house too. So great. Thank you again so much for letting us know a little bit about your role. So let's dive right in here, and we're going to kick off with introducing you to the national network. So the National Family Support Network has quadrupled in size, actually. We are now up to more than quadrupled, actually, now that I think about it. We have grown, we have 39 member networks, and that represents 3,000, more than 3,000 family resource centers that serve more than 2 million people annually. So that's pretty incredible. And you can see the map here. All of the green states are our members. And so we started out just with 8 states at the table. And on this slide, you can learn a little bit about our work. So we have divided our work into 3 buckets. And the first is connecting and convening member networks to enhance their effectiveness. So increasing the connectedness amongst members for peer learning and mutual support. And the second area of practice relates to the standards. So promoting the family support best practice and evaluation. So raising awareness of what quality family support is, and promoting a common language and standards and evaluation of it through the national implementation of the standards of quality for family strengthening and support. And our third area of work is raising the visibility of the value and impact of family strengthening and support networks in order to strengthen and increase support for families. And so here is our roadmap of our time together. We'll share some background information and provide an overview of the standards, and we'll dive into talking a little bit about implementation, and both at the program level and systems or network level. And then we'll have an opportunity to answer some questions, and feel free to be entering those into the chat as they come up to you, and we'll have that ready to go when we're closing. And before we leave today, we will share some resources and opportunities that are available to you through the National Family Support Network. And again, that evaluation will pop up on your screen when you exit the webinar. So we really appreciate your taking an opportunity to fill that out. So with these standards, our focus is on families who are responsible for raising children. So these families consist of at least one adult and one child who are related biologically, emotionally, or legally. Families may consist of one parent, two parents, grandparents, foster parents, grandparents, legal guardians, or they may arise from a need for mutual support. And taking a look at this this slide, you can see the timeline of how the standards were developed. So this has been quite an incredible process, and it all started back in 2012 when the California network developed these standards originally. And then in 2013, the national network adopted them for national implementation. And then in 2020, the national network, we engaged member networks from across the country, as well as parent leaders, Canadian family support organizations, and the Center for the Study of Social Policy to review and to revise the standards with a particular focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the relevance for both United States and Canada. And then just last year, the new version was approved by the National Family Support Network membership. And so these standards, they help ensure that families are supported and strengthened through quality practice. And they create a common language and expectations across different kinds of family strengthening programs. And they are designed to be used by all stakeholders. So whether you're public department, foundations, community-based organization, families, you're using them and able to use them as a tool for planning, providing, and assessing quality practice. And one of my favorite slides here, we're always really excited to share that these standards, as well as all of the implementation tools, are available for free to download on the National Family Support Network website. So you can see the website there as well. So want to emphasize, we're not selling these standards. We want everyone to have access to and be able to think about quality work with families. So taking a look at this slide, you thinking back to when we were seeing who is in this room together, hopefully you'll be able to see which box relates to you. And then we'll talk about how you can use these standards. So family support, strengthening and support programs such as family resource centers, you can use these standards as a blueprint for implementing best practice and for self-assessment and to demonstrate quality. If you're working directly with families, you can use the standards to reflect on and enhance your work with families. And if you're working at the network level, so networks, Family Resource Center networks, you can use the standards for quality assurance, for training and technical assistance, and you can use the standards to adopt as an expectation for membership. And policymakers, I know we had some systems level folks here today. So if you're working at the policy level, you can use the standards to endorse for application in your areas of influence. If you're a funder, you can use the standards to integrate requests for proposals, monitoring, and quality assurance. And families, if you have any families here today, you can partner with programs to apply the standards and provide feedback about how well the program is applying the standards. Also important to mention that if effective use of the standards requires the commitment and the support of all levels of program responsibility. So executive directors, managers, coordinators, direct service staff, parent leaders, families, everyone coming together to implement the standards. And these standards, they uniquely integrate and operationalize two key frameworks. So the first is the Principles of Family Support Practice. And these were developed by Family Support America. So that organization has since sunset, but these standards keep the principles alive. And the second framework is the research-based and evidence-informed Strengthening Families Protective Factor Framework. And these were developed by the Center for the Study of Social Policy. And so we'll dive into talking about more about both of these. And the standards bring these two frameworks together. So before we dive into the principles, curious how many of you have heard of the principles of family support practice before today? And so we're going to launch a poll to see if you've heard of these principles before today. All right, take about 10 more seconds. And if you haven't had an opportunity to respond just yet to that poll, take a moment to do so. We would love to hear from you. All righty, let's see these results. That is wild. 50-50. All right. So some of you have and some of you have not. All right. So for 50% of you will be a little bit of review. And for those of you that not so much, we will fill you in right now and we'll dive right into talking about these principles. All right. So these, again, these principles were developed by a national organization, Family Support America, and they were developed in 1981, but they continue to guide and frame the field today. So the first principle that you see here on the slide is that staff and families work together in relationships based on equality and on respect. So while this principle, it might not seem so revolutionary to us today, but at the time it was written, it presented quite a challenge to the system. So at the time, the prevailing wisdom was that the staff were the experts and they came in with their education, their knowledge, and their experience, and that their goal was to quote unquote fix the problem family. But this principle, this challenged that notion. And this says that staff and families are equal. So staff do certainly come to the table with their education, their knowledge, and their experience. And the families, they also bring their own strengths and resources and are the most knowledgeable about their own past experiences. And it is by working as partners in relationships based on equality and respect that we will achieve the best outcomes for families. Let's take a look at the second one together here. So, staff enhance families' capacity to support the growth and development of all family members, adult, youth, and children. So this principle, it emphasized that we in the family support field look at the whole family, not just the individual. So if one member of the family is participating in our activities, we want to be asking about and inviting other members of the family as well. We know that when multiple family members are involved, the family will be more likely to have better outcomes. And the third principle, families are resources to their own members, to other families, to programs, and to their communities. So, unique to the family support perspective is that we do not see staff as having all of the answers or doing all of the work to support families. Families themselves are encouraged to support other families. And there is a strong emphasis on connecting families to share resources such as information and peer support. Let's look at principle 4 together here. So principle 4 says that programs affirm and strengthen families' cultural, racial, and linguistic identities and enhance their ability to function in a multicultural society. So this principle, this is commonly referred to as the diversity principle, and it has two parts. So the first is about respecting and welcoming the diversity that families bring, be that linguistic diversity, cultural diversity, family structure, things like that. And the second part is about preparing them for and connecting them with the larger community where they will naturally interact with people very different from themselves. So, this will support them to fully participate in the diverse society in which we live. And the fifth principle says that programs are embedded in their communities and contribute to the community building process. So the family support programs, they do not see themselves as simply social service providers, but as community builders as well. So by strengthening families, they make a key contribution to the health of the communities. They also work to develop families' responsibility and leadership for strengthening and building their communities. Principle six says that programs advocate with families for services and systems that are fair and responsive and accountable to the family served. So take a moment to think about some of the major systems that families are commonly interacting with. So maybe education, healthcare, legal systems. Are these systems fair and responsive and accountable? Often not. So that's where our work comes in as family support providers to work with families to help improve these systems. All right, let's look at the last three principles here. So, principle seven says that practitioners work with families to mobilize formal and informal resources to support family development. So there is a strong emphasis in the family support field on resources. And the most common type of family support program is called a family resource center. And I know we had quite a few folks from family resource centers here with us today. So that is awesome. So you can see right in the name, the emphasis is on resources. And so while no one program could directly provide all of the supports a family might need, it's our responsibility to know how to connect them to them. And the eighth principle says that programs are flexible and continually responsive to emerging families and community issues. So, this concept of flexibility and responsiveness are super important in the family support field because neighborhoods and communities they change. So, a neighborhood that is majority Latinx today, they might be majority Asian in 5 years. And issues emerge that significantly affect families, such as the economic downturn. And programs need to be flexible and responsive to these changes. And lastly, principle nine. So, principle nine says that these principles of family support are modeled in all program activities, including planning, administration, and governance. So, this is what we call the catch all principle because it says that all of the above principles should be applied in everything you do. So, planning, governance, and administration. And these principles have implications for how we develop programs, how they're led, and how we support our staff. All right, we're going to turn to the second framework that the standards are based upon. But before we do that, let's take a look at the poll so you can let us know how familiar you are with the 5 protective factors. Awesome. All right. So take a moment to let us know if you have heard of these protective factors before today. All right. So take about 5 more seconds if you haven't responded just yet. Let's see those results. All right. Looks like almost 2/3 of you have heard of these protective factors before today. And again, if you haven't, let's talk about them now. Thanks so much. All right. So the Strengthening Families Protective Factor framework was developed by the Center for the Study of Social Policy back in 2005. And they are research-based and evidence-informed. And they have been shown to increase family stability enhance child development, and reduce the likelihood of child abuse and neglect. And here on the slide, you can see the 5 protective factors. So they are parental resilience, and that's the family's ability to bounce back from challenging situations. And then we have social connections, concrete support in times of need, knowledge of parenting and child development, and the social and emotional competence of children. So we definitely encourage you to check out the Center for the Study of Social Policy, their website, and learn more about this framework. So now that we have covered the 2 frameworks that the standards are based upon, want to share with you a little bit more about the standards themselves. So these are the 5 sections of the standards. So we have family centeredness, family strengthening, diversity, equity, and inclusion, community strengthening, and evaluation. So each of these 5 sections represent a key element of quality practice. And looking at the structure of the standards, you'll see 15 standards total. And within those, we have indicators. So each standard includes 1 to 2 sets of indicators of both foundational and high quality. So the foundational quality indicator, it demonstrates the basic application of the standard. And then the programs build upon foundational quality indicators in order to achieve high quality indicators, which represent deeper integration of the standard. So each indicator is followed by 2 to 4 examples from the field that illustrate its application. And these examples are provided as illustrators and are not meant to be a checklist or limited to the one-sided. So in the certification training on the standards, a significant focus is on participants having an opportunity to think of their own examples and how they are demonstrating the indicators in ways relevant to their own programs. So as the programs are applying the standards, they are encouraged to identify their own examples that demonstrate the indicators in ways that are relevant to their communities. So let's take a look at those quality indicators a little more closely. So foundational quality indicators, they create a solid foundation for family support and strengthening programs. And the foundational quality indicators, they are designed to be met within the basic resources of a typical family support and strengthening program. And then at high quality, those high quality indicators are built upon foundational quality being in place first. So we aren't just jumping to high quality, we need that solid foundation under us. And programs are encouraged to strive to meet high quality indicators in order to serve families most effectively. Some high quality indicators, they may require additional capacity building or maybe some additional resources in order to meet. Let's look at this continuum along the bottom here. So we start with foundational quality not yet addressed, and then we approach foundational quality and then meet foundational quality. And this is where foundational quality begins. And then we continue along the continuum to approach high quality and then meet both foundational and high quality. You'll see at the bottom of this arrow, it keeps going after you have already met both foundational and high quality. This is because quality improvement is very much an ongoing continuous process. And this is why high quality is not maximum quality. And also want to mention here that implementing the standards, it's very much a developmental process. And it's common that programs may see aspects of their work at different points along the quality continuum. And as we talk about the standards, and if you decide to move forward with a training or anything, you may see that there's areas of work that you're doing quality work already, and you may also identify areas that you'll want to work on further. So let's take a look at this together. So for the first 4 sections of the standards, this is the arrow that we use to explain the movement from foundational to high quality. So on the left, we see foundational quality. And on the right, we see high quality, which represents that deeper integration of the standards into the program. So what moves us from foundational to high quality are the elements in the arrow. So let's take a look at these arrow elements together here. The first is formal structure. So these are designs, policies, procedures, and intentional strategies with committed resources that ensure consistency of practice. And then we have staff training as our second um, arrow element. And this is staff training to support the implementation of the standard in particular. And lastly, we have family partnership. So this is where we are partnering with families in the implementation of the standard. So each of these elements help ensure that the standards are more deeply integrated into program practice. So for example, at foundational quality, we may do something that is good practice, but then how are we ensuring that it wasn't just a one-time occurrence? And then at high quality, we've actually set up systems and training, and or we have partnered with families to ensure that it will continue to happen. So the particular elements and the number of elements that are needed for high quality differ for various indicator pairs. So sometimes it's 1, sometimes 2, and sometimes it's all 3. But there's never anything other than these 3 that move us to high quality. Let's take a look at this next slide, which is an actual it's an actual standard and indicator pair from the standards themselves. So if you download them, this may look familiar. So within the family centeredness section, we have this first standard here. And the standard is that the program engages families to participate in program development and implementation. The foundational quality indicator on the left is that the program solicits input from families to shape and plan the program and services. And the high quality indicator is the program's design supports partnering with families to have an active role in the development of the program, as well as the implementation of the program. So, and then you can also see here in the middle, in the arrow there, formal structure and family partnership are the elements that are moving us from foundational to high quality. All right, so this is our evaluation arrow. So as with the arrow that we saw in the just now, and that's the one for the first 4 sections of the standards, this is for the evaluation section, and it has its own arrow. So again, we see foundational quality on the left, high quality on the right, which represents that deeper integration into the program, but the arrow elements are different. So the elements that we have here are data analysis. So this is collecting, so foundational quality, collecting data is foundational quality, but then analyzing the data is what is moving us to high quality. And then we have sharing evaluation results. So we're sharing these results with various stakeholders, such as the families that we're working with. And then we have program modification. So this means changing the program as a result of what we learned from evaluation. So we aren't just doing evaluation for evaluation's sake, we're actually doing something with it. I am excited to introduce you to our implementation tools and share a little bit about each of those, which again are available to download for free on the website. So the first tool we'll talk about is the program self-assessment tool. So this is designed for program teams and teams of managers, direct service staff, and parent leaders to reflect on the standards implementation and the quality improvement. And so this is designed to be used as a critical thinking exercise by program teams. So managers, direct service staff, parent leaders, everyone coming together to brainstorm. And it is recommended that all team members involved in using this tool be trained on the standards first. The second tool that we'll talk about is the staff checklist. So this consists of um, 18 self-reflection questions for staff members to use as an ongoing reminder of how to implement the standards. And staff are encouraged to put this somewhere that's convenient and in a place they'll see regularly. I know when I was at a family resource center prior to being with a national network, I had this literally posted next to my desk on the wall, just because it was something I wanted to have in my mind at all times. And then the third tool that I'm excited to share with you is the standards participant survey. So this shows how well the program is meeting the standards from the participant's point of view. So it's not a typical satisfaction survey. And the questions mirror those on the staff checklist. So if a staff member is mindful of these questions initially, the program participants are likely to give the program high scores. And again, all of these tools are available to download on the National Family Support Network website. And if if you hover over standards at the top of the website, a drop down will appear and you'll click on the standards implementation tools and you'll be able to access all of these tools there. So we've mentioned training a couple times, so want to talk about that briefly too. So training is a fundamental strategy in for effectively implementing the standards. So the certification training is a in-person or virtual training, and this is designed for management, direct service staff, as well as funders. And participants receive a certificate that is valid for 2 years from being trained. So these certification trainings are conducted by pairs of trained trainers from member networks across the country, as well as the National Family Support Network. So networks, funders, other stakeholders, they can also contract directly with us to host a certification training for your programs in your area if there's not already standards trainers in your state. And so programs are highly encouraged to come as teams of both management and direct service staff to this training because successful application of the standards requires the commitment and the support of all levels of program responsibility. And another important thing to mention here too, that individuals are certified, not organizations, which integrates the standards into everyone's daily work and provides a professional credential for staff. And all of these trainings are done live because of the group work, and the peer sharing are so incredibly valuable to the process of learning about the standards. And I also should mention, even though it says in person or virtual, we are still completely virtual right now. And we do look forward to going back to in person when we are able, but all trainings are done live virtually currently. So the Training of Trainer Institute, let's talk about that for a moment. So the Training of Trainer Institute is a 4-day in-person or 5-day virtual training for member representatives of the National Family Support Network member networks to be able to conduct the certification training in their area. So this was intentionally set up this way because only network representatives are trained to be trainers, which supports their capacity and their capacity building. And it also establishes a unique, essential, and ongoing role for them within their system of care and supporting families in their area. And same thing with the training of trainer institutes. Those are currently virtual as well. So speaking of trainings, let's take a look at trainings that have happened to date. So this map shows all that has happened in the past almost 10 years with the standards. So you can see that we have trained over 12,000 people on the standards. There's over 12,000 certified across the country and outside of the country. We have folks from Canada that have been certified as well. And you can see that we have well over 100 current trainers that are offering these trainings across the country. And here you can see a bit about the training impact. So you can see that 91% of folks that that took the standard certification training and responded to the survey let us know that they did see enhanced, their programs were enhanced and they were able to serve families more effectively. And we also heard back with this post-certification surveys that are sent out that at least 85% of respondents are using at least one or more of those tools that we talked about. So there's 3 tools and many of them are using more than one, but at least 85% of them are using at least one. And want to give you a moment to read through these quotes that come to us from training participants across the country. So as you can see here, the standards help validate existing work by benchmarking it to national best practice. So also want to mention that networks themselves have formed and expanded through the standard certification training. So, for example, in Arizona, the standards provided a common language for diverse providers across the state and established a key role for the Maricopa Family Support Alliance. And they promoted quality practice within their system of care using these standards. So, as a result, their alliance grew from 21 to 72 agencies within a few short years. So that was pretty incredible. And networks are strengthened, they strengthen their capacity and their sustainability through developing trained trainers. And all funds that are generated through the standard certification training are invested back into supporting networks. So in order to ensure the accessibility and the affordability of the standard certification training, networks with certified trainers may only charge participants up to $150. So intentionally keeping that very affordable. All right, so want to shift gears a bit and share with you 2 implementation continua. So this first one is the program implementation continuum. And this will be available in the handouts section in that Dropbox folder that will be shared at the end of the webinar today. So encourage you to download this. This is also on that implementation page of the website as well. So let's take a look at this together. So this is for folks that are at the program level. So I know we had a lot of Family Resource Center folks here today. That's an example of who this is for and other similar organizations. So you can see across the top, there's various steps. And then below that, there's sample activities with each of those steps. And just below that in green, there's the resources that are available to you as you are moving along these steps. So such as you can see one of the items in the prepare phase is participating in this webinar. So congratulations for being on your way. And then lastly, at the bottom, you'll see the cost, potential costs associated with each of those steps. So this is just an example. This is a continuum to use as you continue on your journey. And then let's look at this one. This next one is looking one level up at the network level. And again, this looks very familiar, but this is for folks that are at the systems level. So maybe you are organizing your member network. So maybe you are a network of family resource centers, just an example, or State Department, things like that. You would be using this tool. So you have the steps all across the top again, those sample activities, and then the resources that are available to you through the national network and the potential costs available to you. And then let's take a look. We have some examples of these network implementation plans. So this is an example. This is an implementation diagram from one particular network that demonstrates how they implement these standards as a network. So this one uses a three-pronged strategy that integrates them into training, evaluation, and membership. So each network is encouraged to develop their own network level implementation plan. This is another example that comes to us from the early days of the Colorado network. And so this diagram illustrates how the Colorado network tiered their trainings for their Family Resource Center staff. So their network determined that all staff at the centers, regardless of their roles, would complete the standard certification training. And then the staff that are working with families, as well as their supervisors, are completing it's a free 14-hour online strengthening families training that is offered by the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. And then the staff that are working directly with families in case management roles, they are completing the 60-hour family development credential. So this is just another example that we wanted to share with you for network implementation. And as a reminder, please be entering in your questions as you're thinking of them in the question and answer portion of the Zoom webinar console. It should be in the middle of the panel on the bottom of your screen. So some considerations, why you might want to adopt these standards. So the first is deepened practice and the ability to establish a common language, and to develop partnership opportunities that you may not have been able to do otherwise. You also have the ability to utilize shared measurement systems and do something concrete for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and be part of a national movement. So a few considerations for you. And after these webinars, folks would ask us, what's next? We're really excited to learn more about the standards and see how we could use them at our organization. So we came up with a slide to help you with that. So we invite you to download the standards and review them if you haven't done that yet. And we also encourage you to review possible next steps along the program or network implementation continuum. And we invite you to participate in a standard certification training that is offered by your state or the national network. And so if you are a funder in a state without networks currently offering the standard certification training, we invite you to review the standards training page to learn about how to contract with the National Family Support Network to bring the training to your state. And another reminder to enter in questions. And I'll check in just a moment to see if we've received any questions but want to share with you some exciting opportunities that are available to you through the National Family Support Network. So Webinar Wednesdays, you've obviously heard of them because you're here today, but if you would like to check out any future Webinar Wednesdays, this webinar that we just completed will be doing again next month, except we'll be highlighting Wisconsin in their network level implementation. So encourage you to check that out if you're interested. We also in June will be spotlighting the New York City and their family enrichment centers. So invite you to check those out. We also have tons of recordings in our Webinar Wednesday library as well. Speaking of the standard certification trainings that we were just talking about, we offer an open training at the end of each month. And so these are the fourth Thursday and Friday each month. And encourage you to check out, peek at your calendar and see if you're available for one of these. We invite you to register for either the May training or the June training. And registration is open for the May one for just, it looks like a couple more weeks, just shy of a couple weeks. So encourage you to register for that if you're interested. These trainings are virtual and we would love to see you there. And you also, again, can check out on the website to see if your state has a network that's currently offering standard certification trainings as well. And so as we're thinking about working with families in a quality way, another way that folks often want to do this is through developing a parent advisory committee. So this training gives you all of the concrete tools of how to start a parent advisory committee, how to strengthen an existing one. There's just a lot that goes into that. And so you're not having to reinvent the wheel. Encourage you to check this out. This is co-trained by a NFSN staff member as well as an experienced national parent leader. So encourage you to check that out as well. And that one also, the deadline for the May one is coming up shortly. So stay tuned with that if you'd like to register. If you just visit nationalfamilysupportnetwork.org, you can on the homepage register for either the standards training or the parent advisory committee training. Okay, this one is coming up just next week, so very excited to share this with you. This, everyone's welcome to participate in this event. This is a free event. We're kicking off this event with 2 family resource center tours. So you can tour a school-based family resource center or a community-based family resource center. And then we have the main program where we'll talk about advancing this field and the advancement that's happened, hear from parents. It'll be really exciting. And then the event closes with the opportunity to connect with member networks from across the country and learn about what they do and how they do it. You'll actually be able to go into breakout rooms with them, ask questions. It's going to be really great. And this event is completely free. So register for that today on the website as well. And last thing to share with you, super excited to share with you, is the Together for Family conference is coming up in October. So be sure to save the date for this. This is a biennial, so we're having this every other year, and it's a unique virtual again for 2022. This is an event that connects various stakeholders from across the United States and Canada in this, the family support and strengthening field, to focus on best practices and ways to best support families' advancement. And so the Together for Families conference is in October, but in 2 weeks, we are hosting a kickoff event. This kickoff event is, we're really excited about it. It's literally just an hour on May 19th from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, where we are going to share some a sneak peek at some of the content. We're going to be having some raffle prizes. So I know we're going to be raffling off a free conference registration, one of the plenary's books, some other really great raffle items. So be sure to check that out as well. You can learn more about this event on the website as well. You can, if you're already on the National Family Support Network's website, you can click right on the homepage and learn about this event there, or the website directly to the Together for Families website is here as well. And I see we had a question come in, so I'll get to that in just a moment. Last call for questions, so enter those if you have any. The last resource that I wanted to share with you is has high level overview of some other resources. So we at the National Network, we do not want anyone in this field, if you don't have to be reinventing the wheel or anything. So we have tons of Family Resource Center overviews, research reports, sample requests for proposals, evaluation plans, videos, tons of information about data management systems. We have member network snapshots, and we're going to have newly updated snapshots shortly. That's what you see here on the right. It's an at-a-glance document of each of our member networks. We also are available to present for key stakeholders about family resource centers or the standards. And we are also available for supporting exploration of Families Resource Center network development. So if you're interested in starting a network in your state, not sure where to start, definitely connect with us. And this is the contact information for myself and my colleague, Jennifer. So I am all things standards. Jennifer is all things membership and events. So there's our contact information, so you have it. So again, be sure to enter your questions if you have any. And let's see here. Yes, so there's a question in the chat that relates to just asking if we have had experience with home visiting programs implementing the standards, and just interested in that process. And the short answer is yes. Yes, we have had, I know of quite a few. I'm in upstate New York, and I was working at the program level prior to joining the National Network. And I know we have just here in New York, we definitely have home visiting programs that use them. So depending on your state that you are in would depend, there's folks use the standards in different ways across the country. So definitely happy to connect with you, and maybe we can set you up with another a similar program to compare notes. So my email is right there on the slide. So if you want to shoot me an email, would love to discuss that with you further. And if there's not, I'm not seeing any other questions. Okay. Well, thank you again so much for participating in this webinar. It's been great to see you today virtually, and glad that you were able to join us. Our tech folks have put the link to that Dropbox folder so you can access the all of the handouts that were referenced, and some that were not, some good ones that you may find helpful, and also includes the PowerPoint slides as well. And as a reminder, the recording of this webinar will be live by tomorrow afternoon. So I encourage you to check that out and share that with your colleagues. And as a reminder, when you leave today, a survey will pop up, which we really appreciate if you take a moment to fill out, as it helps inform future webinars. So thank you again for your participation, and hope you have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. Bye-bye.